Wow, Chris. Look at this. He's setting up the lighting because he's got storms in Texas.
I got storms. There's a storm brewing here. That's for sure.
There's a storm and brewing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Good Friday afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes late today on the Southside Beat. Chris Halicke, Corey Chris with you. I'm checking in downtown at HQ. Just left the Southside, got downtown, settled in to write about Russell Wilson and his intentions on making it, essentially a competition within himself, and then bang!
Blockbuster.
9 minutes before we were set to record this show today, report drops, hammer drops. Chris gets the confirmation. The Steelers are trading Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles for a reported pick swap. Now, this according to ESPN. Steelers going to receive the 98th overall pick in this April's draft, 2 7th rounders in 2025. The Eagles get Pickett in the 120th pick in this upcoming draft. Wow.
Yeah. I'm just about as shocked as anybody. I had no sense of this. Like I said, I had been getting told, and listen, I understand that like sources will say whatever they need to say, in order to, get whatever message they want out. And, sometimes those, it just depends, like I was very, very much under the impression of what I was being told. And I was going to believe that until somebody said otherwise. And honestly, that precedent doesn't completely surprise me, because why would they tip their hand if they have any kind of intention of possibly trading him away? So now that might have been the initial feeling that, if they signed, no, I don't know this for sure, but the report from ESPN was that once Russell Wilson was brought in, that Kenny might have wanted to change. And that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me either. But I still did not see this playing out the way it did. But Teresa makes a really good point here. If the Steelers weren't willing to trade him, then they pretty much believe what Teresa says. This says they knew Kenny wasn't the guy. And obviously their trade speaks that. I mean that backs up that theory that in 2 seasons and 25 games they didn't see enough from Kenny Pickett that he could be the guy. Otherwise, he'd still be in black and gold, and maybe otherwise they wouldn't sign Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So,
well, this opens.
I'm still surprised about it. Yeah.
Well, this is what's called shock. This is what's called shock. We are not even 15 minutes away. We're barely 15 minutes away, actually, removed from any kind of thing breaking about this. Yeah. And now we're talking about the Steelers have one quarterback in their room again, and it's Russell Wilson.
Honestly, do you want to know who? Yeah. No, go ahead.
Omar Khan has said he wants to take 4 in a Latrobe, as they do.
Well, they will. 3. They will. Can I offer you the idea of Ryan Tannehill again?
You sure can.
As a backup to Russell Wilson, a guy who's played under Arthur Smith, who would probably come as a pretty cheap cost. I think that's a pretty. I understand. Yeah, and there's going to be people here that are now saying, Justin Fields. And listen, they got the 98th pick in the draft, so maybe they are willing to part with maybe their 3rd round pick, which is a little higher than that. Maybe they can offer that higher 3rd round pick now. So I mean, I'm not opposed to the Justin Fields thing. The ceiling is way higher to me than Kenny Pickett from what I've seen. It's kind of the same thing. It's like if a quarterback has elite arm talent and can make plays outside the pocket, you can kind of try to work with everything else. That's what's honestly made Russell Wilson such a successful quarterback over the course of his career, is that, yes, he's limited in the pocket because he's 5'11", but look at everything else that he's able to do. He has an elite arm. I mean, everybody, wants to forget this dude was drafted in the 4th round of the MLB draft in 2010. Like, dude has an arm. He has a natural ability to throw. whether it be a baseball or football. And so that's why he's been able to make a living outside the pocket when you combine that arm with elite athleticism. Justin Fields, similar, elite arm, can really throw the deep ball, can make plays outside the pocket. Maybe he's a guy who they want to bring in to try to learn behind Russell. I just think that one to me still seems a little, I don't know, just because the Steelers would then have to decide whether to pick up that fifth-year option right away. And I don't know if that happens. But if you're trying to look at a potential quarterback for the future after Russell, maybe they entertain a trade offer for Justin Fields. But for me right now,
Fields market too.
Yeah. No, you have to
Fields market too.
Again, it's just Omar doing his job. It's his job to pick up the phone and to see what's available. Just like it was his job to bring in Russell Wilson for an invite. Because if that meeting doesn't go well, if that initial phone call doesn't go well, like obviously, Russell talked and he kind of explained the process on how that all played out. But if that initial Zoom call doesn't go well, and if that meeting on the South Side doesn't go well, then Russell Wilson's not a Steeler right now. Obviously, those meetings went really, really well, and so now he's going to be the guy, at least for 2024, maybe future years too. We don't know. We'll see. Yep. But it's just really, really interesting. And honestly, kind of happy for Kenny because, I understand he's going to be behind Jalen Hurts, but he also gets to play for his hometown, for the team he rooted for growing up. And, that's kind of cool, but still it is pretty shocking. I didn't see this coming. I really thought that they were going to try to hold on to Kenny, see if they could get the most out of him. But if Kenny, at all, if there's any truth to Kenny giving any kind of indication that he wanted out, that he wanted a fresh start somewhere else, then it is what it is.
To me, there are two logical steps to take if you're the Steelers as of right now. Number one, they trade up in the draft or they take someone at 20. And now they have extra capital to move up if they really want to. If they really feel strongly about, they're not going to go to 1 or 2 or 3. Let's put that to bed right away. If they feel really strongly about a Jaden Daniels, or if they feel really strongly about what of these other quarterbacks that are in this draft class. Now, I don't believe they met with any of the top ones in Indianapolis at the Combine. So I'm not inclined to believe that they're high about, there's DK, by the way. I don't believe that they're high about one of these top-of-the-line quarterbacks in the draft. So with that being said, at least from that scouting perspective, the next logical step to me is looking at Justin Fields. And that market for Justin Fields is so quiet right now.
It's been dry.
Going back to the Combine. It's been virtually nothing. And now the Eagles have Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett. The Falcons signed Russell Wilson for big money. The Titans, what did I say? Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins. The Titans just paid Mason Rudolph, and they're banking on Will Levis now. So now, where does that leave Justin Fields? What is the market for Justin Fields? It can't be anything right now. And that's going back now 3 weeks to the Combine. So, look, they have capital. If that market for Fields is so low right now that the Steelers can pounce on it, sure. Why not at this stage?
The only part of the Justin Fields potential there again is you have to pick up his 5th-year option right away. Right. You have to make that decision before he even takes a snap at OTAs, much less minicamp or training camp or preseason or anything like that. I mean, you're talking about owing this guy like $25 million, almost $26 million in 2025 before he even takes a snap for you in OTAs. Like that is a significant investment. Then also, does that mean Russell Wilson is a one and done dude here? That to me is, again, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying like that 5th-year option to me is the big thing, because obviously if they make the trade for Justin Fields, then obviously they're, okay, yeah, that's going to be our guy who can learn under Russell for a year. And then we believe that he can be our guy moving forward after that. If not, if they don't make that trade, then, obviously either they were interested, but they weren't willing to give up what it was or what was going to be required to get him, or they just weren't interested in getting a guy and then having to commit nearly $26 million next season for a guy who they haven't even seen play for them yet. So, I think, and maybe this is just my consistent expectation of the Steelers going about the Steelers' way, but Ryan Tannehill to me makes the most sense in terms of signing somebody to be the second quarterback, just because, again, played under Arthur Smith, lots of NFL experience. His best years were under Arthur Smith. He's like a more high floor type of signing to be a backup in case Russell Wilson were to either be absolutely terrible or were to get injured or anything like that. Then you can bring in a guy who can then, and then at that point, it's like, okay, well, then we go back to, okay, what's the long-term solution at quarterback? But either way, them trading away Kenny Pickett automatically puts the Steelers into, okay, what's the long-term plan at quarterback? So we're in that boat right now. It doesn't matter what happens. So that's kind of why I'm like, maybe Ryan Tannehill makes the most sense. But again, I'm not going to completely rule out a Justin Fields trade, because honestly, at this point, I'm not going to rule out anything. They signed Patrick Queen in free agency. They traded away Kenny Pickett. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not ruling it. The rule book has been thrown out completely.
Everything's been thrown out. Everything that you thought was going to happen has been thrown out completely. How about AJ? 20 gifted subs. We appreciate that, AJ. You got one of those.
That's a
drop
dub
some
right
emojis.
There.
Drop a thank you. We appreciate that, AJ. All right, for those that are just joining, 9 minutes before 3 p.m. today. 9 minutes before 3 p.m.
Yeah.
The Steelers, the reports broke that the Steelers are trading Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for a pick swap. The Steelers are going to receive number 98 in the draft and 2 7th rounders in 2025. The Eagles are getting Pickett in the 120th pick in this upcoming draft. So in case you missed it right there, that is what the big discussion is. And this came, by the way, ours. What's up?
Hey, Halicke, tell him it's not 9/11. He's reading off these times like, planes just went into buildings or something. Come on, man. It's a backup / third string quarterback who just got traded.
Hey, still, that's what time it happens. So, I mean, there you go. But anyway.
No more 9/11 jokes either. That's enough.
No. We're not going down that avenue. No. We're not going down that avenue today.
But I mean, okay, so somebody here made a, hold on a second. Maybe I missed it. The obviously the guys are bringing it with the comments today. There was something that I forgot to star whenever I saw it come across, but shoot. Man, I missed it. But okay. Well, here's one. Miltank's uncle says, "Remember, this was Colbert's pick," and again, like, when you look at Kenny Pickett, man, like everybody going nuts over DK showing up. Like, this is it's a new regime. If anybody wanted any more proof that this was Omar Khan, that Omar Khan is putting his stamp on this team, I think that's just now. Think about it. Okay, so there is now nobody left. I don't think from either the 2018 or 2019 drafts. Deontay Johnson was the last member, I think, of the 2019 draft that was still on the roster. I'd have to pull those up, but right now I'm using my phone as a light. But
I can look it up.
But I'm just saying, like, so 2018, 2019, if I'm not mistaken, all of those players are gone. You just traded away the first round pick of the 2022 draft, which was Kevin Colbert's last draft. I mean, and here we go. John
Steelers 2018 draft class, by the way. Terrell Edmonds, James Washington, Mason Rudolph, Chuks Okorafor, Marcus Allen, Jalen Samuels, Josh Frazier.
All gone.
As you were
19.
saying.
Well, Tomlin, John Gowan or Gowan. Sorry if I say it wrong. I understand mispronouncing last names. He says Tomlin screwed Mason Rudolph. Yeah. How good would it be to have Mason Rudolph right now as your number 2? I think that would be that's honestly would probably be your most ideal. But obviously, as DK reported in Friday Insider, they never made him an offer. So I mean, apparently the Steelers are willing to move on, and apparently this is what the Steelers are going to be doing.
That doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like that.
No, they don't want Mason back. Otherwise, Mason wouldn't be with the Titans right now. But if they never made an offer to Mason, then it's like, okay, well then why stay here? I'm going to entertain other offers. And apparently he had a market, and he got an offer, to be probably the number 2 in Tennessee. So, with even a chance to push Will Levis if Will Levis doesn't play up to standard. So, I just no, they never made Steven. No, the Steelers, according to what DK reported in Friday Insider, I have every reason to believe what he reports. Obviously, the Steelers never made Mason an offer. So, now Stephanie says they talked to Mason same day. Now, talking doesn't mean made an offer. They could have talked to him. They could have talked to him or his representation or whatever, but they can't. That doesn't necessarily mean an offer. It's man, it's really interesting to see where the and honestly, like getting Russell Wilson in, I really am beginning to wonder if Mike Tomlin, I don't know, just Mike Tomlin and quarterbacks, like he was handed Ben Roethlisberger, of all the things, I like for the crowd that likes to be like, oh, Mike Tomlin only won a Super Bowl because he had Bill Cowher's team. It's like, I don't buy into that, but he was gifted a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Like there are certain things you are just gifted whenever you take over as coach sometimes. And that particular instance, yes, Mike Tomlin was handed Ben Roethlisberger. And so for the most part, didn't have to worry about quarterback for a long time. And so obviously he might feel comfortable with this, with the urgency the Steelers have about getting back into contention. They might be willing to, bring in a veteran guy who doesn't need nearly as much maintenance, as a young quarterback, and maybe they'll just try to start over. I don't know. I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around this still because it just everything that they were saying, full faith in Kenny. Kenny, there was so much faith in Kenny, and then here we go. Yep. It's a new era completely, and like I said, the rule book, the precedents have all been thrown out the window.
Yep. 2019 draft class, by the way. Are you sitting down? You ready for this one? Devin Bush, Deontay Johnson, Justin Lane, Benny Snell, Zach Gentry, Sutton Smith, Isaiah Buggs, Ulysses Gilbert, Derwin Gray.
Yep.
Here's your 2019 draft.
So 2018 and 2019 drafts are all gone. Now I don't know if that's just, if that's now part of that is like failure to draft. Those are just not, those are not good drafts at all. But I don't think it's also it's just a coincidence that Omar Khan is moving on from guys that weren't his guys. Yeah.
So. Yellow asks, how does this trade do anything to the cap space? Does hardly anything.
Yeah,
I don't think on his rookie contract. This hardly does anything to the cap space. This wasn't about salary cap or clearing money. This was about establishing a new order. That's the best way I could put it.
His cap hit for this upcoming season was $3.8 million, according to Spot Track. So there you go. Frees up $3.8 million in cap space. That's a nice complimentary player. Nothing of significance there. So, wow, it's just I'm surprised, man. What are your guys' reactions? Because obviously, Kai Blue here says extra picks to go after Fields. We talked about it. It's a possibility. It's a possibility that they do that. It's a possibility they go after Ryan Tannehill or another veteran quarterback. I
am happy. Are the Steelers going to draft?
That's a phenomenal statement right there. We want to change, and we got change. Sure did.
I mean, all right. Let me go back here. I am happy. Yes. Are they going to draft a quarterback in round one? That's a valid question to ask. And here's the thing: follow the leaves of where they're going on pro days. By the way, Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan were both on the South Side today for the introductory press conferences of Russell Wilson, Elliott, and of course Queen. But they're not at pro day today anywhere. But over the last few days, they went to Georgia, they went to Clemson on pro days. Neither of those teams have quarterbacks, and they didn't talk with any of the big name quarterbacks at the combine. And they really weren't in the market, so to speak, in Indianapolis for any of the projected day two guys either. So if this was a move that they foresaw coming, if this trade of Kenny Pickett was something that they had seen coming 3 weeks ago, then yeah, you would have seen some breadcrumbs being left, that they were making some diligence done about these top quarterbacks in Indianapolis when they were all right in front of them. Now the conversation changes. Now, do they start going to some of these pro days where, Jane Daniels will throw, or Drake May throws, or, just looking at the top of the line guys, or now look at Bo Nix, look at guys like that, look at JJ McCarthy. Do they go to some of these pro days now? And then you look at the conversation of Justin Fields is still there, because the market has died down significantly for him, and the Bears still haven't unloaded him with the number 1 overall pick of the draft right there, and Caleb Williams right there. And they sent the cavalry to go visit Caleb Williams at USC as well, did the Bears. So you have to think that based on everything that we know and everything that we see, the Bears are going to unload Justin Fields at some point. It's just a matter of when. And if that market for Fields keeps going down and the Steelers can ship off this pick they got for Kenny for Fields, why not at this stage?
Or if
you're looking at drafts, if you're looking at quarterbacks in the draft, why not? They have to explore all avenues now for this position.
And again, you kind of wonder, okay, what's the one question I had? There are several questions that can come from this. The first one is, what is this team's commitment to Russell Wilson? Obviously, it's for 1 year and then for $1.2 million. That's like the first part of it. But do they think that Russell Wilson could be a guy that could possibly play here for another 3-4 years? I mean, we've been seeing quarterbacks play into their late 30s. Now, I don't know if a quarterback like Russell can play and maintain any kind of like good enough performance just because of his style of quarterback. He's not a pocket passer that can age well while playing in the pocket, like we saw Ben Roethlisberger do, like we saw Tom Brady do, like we saw Peyton Manning do. It just like those are guys that could play longer because of their style of quarterback. Russell Wilson's style doesn't necessarily lend itself to beating Father Time at all. But either way, and Cody brings up a good point here, that if Russell's your guy for more than 1 year, you're gonna have to pay him. And I understand that you're gonna have to pay him at some point. But again, we were talking about it yesterday. If Russell Wilson has a resurgence here, and he looks way more like the Russell Wilson in Seattle than he did in Denver, the Steelers have themselves a quarterback. Now, I don't know if they have themselves a quarterback on the Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar Jackson level, but if it's somebody who's good enough to give you enough firepower from that position to complement what should be a much better defense, then you've got a chance to compete in a very, very tough AFC, a very, very tough AFC North. Now, I think that's honestly why maybe they weren't, like, for example, Russell was trying to get a second year, out of somebody, and nobody balked at that. So that's one thing that I wonder. But then if that's not the case, then what do? Do they trade for Justin Fields? Do they draft a guy early? I don't see them drafting for a guy early right now. It definitely has to be something that you ask, but there's still, center is such a big need right now. Like, there's no free agents left really that can really come in and be like, oh yeah, that dude's the starter. Like, no, you're going to have to get one, and get one early in the draft.
Same with tackle. It's same with tackle. They still need a tackle. They still need a center. They arguably still need another cornerback. They still need another defensive lineman, arguably. Like, there are still many holes to this, and now you add the biggest position in sports to that list. Now, there's obviously, as we're talking about, many avenues that the Steelers can take to help supplement Russell Wilson and maybe even compete with. I don't think that's going to happen by this stage now.
No,
if it's Justin
Russell
Fields,
Wilson's the guy now.
Now, yeah, Russell Wilson is the guy now. But now, if they go out and get Justin Fields, what happens with respect to Fields? Does he take that 1 year, prove it, sit the bench and learn from Russell Wilson, and then they make the decision of free agency? Do they pick up that kind of contract? Do they draft the guy that can learn from Wilson? This opens up so many different avenues, and it honestly, if you're looking at a downside to this, it just gives the Steelers another pressing need to address all the while they're trying to continue to win football games. It's fascinating on so many different levels.
Yeah. I think that this could really just be, at least for 2024, could become, it could be resolved really quickly by signing like Ryan Tannehill. Like, to me, that's the easy thing to be like, okay, at least for 2024, Russell Wilson's our guy. We signed Ryan Tannehill. He's the backup, quality backup. Again, to reiterate, best years were under Arthur Smith in Tennessee. He knows this offense. He'll do a good job. He'll most likely do a good job if Russell Wilson goes down with an injury or whatever. That solves 2024, because right now the Steelers do, even though, yes, Russell Wilson is the only quarterback on the roster right now. I get it. They like center and receiver to me are the absolute two biggest needs. You have to get those two positions taken care of. Even more so than tackle. Like, again, you at least have two guys who can go out there at tackle and at least play. And at least,
Sure.
Dan Moore is obviously not your ideal guy, whether it be at left or right tackle, but at least he can go out there and start. He has the experience to do that. He's done it at least for 3 years now. But center and receiver still remain gigantic needs. I still think even more than tackle. And even though Russell's the only quarterback on the roster, even still more than Kenny. Or more than Kenny. I was reading Kenny right now. Even more than quarterback.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, what to say? I want to hear what you all have to say. I want to read what you all have to say about this move. The comments are flowing. We appreciate it. And we're certainly getting a lot of good feedback from you all about this huge move. And
Randy asked, did Kenny request a trade? I don't know if he officially requested one, but according to a report by ESPN, he approached the Steelers about wanting to move on once Russell Wilson was signed. So I don't know if that was an official trade request. I honestly haven't read too much. Like I said, this broke 9 minutes prior to us supposed to go live. Then I did my own digging and at least got to confirm that, yes, the trade's happening. So, yeah. And Ronaldo Gutierrez, asks, what did we get for Kenny? They moved up. They got the 98th pick in the draft. I think they got another draft pick and then ended up sending another pick. I don't remember. It's all on our Steelers feed on DKPittsburghSports.com for sure. Mr. CJ Jr. says, pouting Pickett. I don't necessarily take that as pouting. If Russell Wilson comes in. If a guy comes in and, he's most likely being brought in to be the starter, or with a gigantic expectation, whether it be external or internal, that he could be the guy, he's 2 years into a career. He's like, listen, I need to do I've ultimately got to look at what's best for myself. And if I feel like I have a better opportunity to do something somewhere else, then that's what's going to happen. Now, I don't think Philadelphia is the place to do that, but also Kenny Pickett doesn't have any control over where he gets traded to. The Steelers are going to get whatever they can. They're going to get the most. Granted, like, this is the Steelers giving up on a first-round pick. You don't just you don't just throw those away. You're going to get the biggest return you can possibly get. So the fact that they even got a third-round pick out of it, I thought was actually pretty impressive. I didn't.
And not when he's going into year 3, and not when he's
going into year three without even being the unquestioned starter and throwing 13 touchdowns in 25 games. Like,
and an offensive coordinator change as well.
Yeah, it's just, you still got a third-round pick from him. That's what I'm saying. Like, that might have been the best return, but like I said, you got Philadelphia has Jalen Hurts back there. I mean, Kenny's not playing unless Jalen Hurts gets hurt.
Over under 1/2 tush pushes that Kenny scores on this year. Does he score on a tush push this year?
Hey, he was pretty good in quarterback sneaks during his rookie year.
Did the Eagles give him a tush push? That's what we have to pivot the conversation to.
Hey, listen. Kenny Pickett, man, like, there of all the things that he might be limited at, he can run a quarterback sneak pretty well. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe it works out in Philly.
So to recap, for those that may have joined late or maybe in waiting for DK and Ramon to come up in about 25 minutes, that's going to be hot today. And by the way, DK published already a miniature column, not really a column, but thoughts just on the trade. So it's right now at DKPittsburghSports.com if you want to check that out.
Steelers feed. It's filled with everything.
I'll be writing about, I guess, what Russell Wilson said today in parts.
It's a
he
big
did
day.
Obviously, Russell Wilson did talk about.
We didn't even talk about We barely touched on anything Russell Wilson said today. We didn't even mention the fact that Patrick Queen and Deshaun Elliott also talked. It's just that kind of a day today when you trade away a former first-round pick.
Let me bundle up. Let me bundle up what those three talked about today, okay? Starting with Queen.
You got like 2 minutes.
Starting with Queen. Queen is so ready to be the Joker in this Steelers-Ravens rivalry. He's so ready for it. He's embracing it. He's going to wear number 6, by the way. They spilled those beans today. He's going to wear number 6. Mike Tomlin gave him the nod of approval to wear number 6. So that's what's going to happen. You know, Queen talked about being where he wants to be and all that kind of stuff. So really cool. But Queen is like really jazzed about being on this side now of the Steelers-Ravens rivalry and all that. Elliott pretty much said what you expected him to say. It was really interesting. Queen and Elliott both did similar things. Queen was basically asked, why here? And he pointed at Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan were standing off camera to the side. Ask Elliott, why'd you sign here? He turns around and points to the backdrop, which has, of course, the Steelers logo on it. And he says, that logo. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then with Elliott, you know, he talked about how he loves playing physical. He loves being versatile. And he can be a guy that can help Minka Fitzpatrick out. He's really excited, of course, to play with Minka. For Russell Wilson, and I'm going to write more about this later, he talked multiple times about essentially proving it to himself that he's still somebody that can compete. It's somebody that can play quarterback at a high level. Now, obviously, with nobody behind him right now, he's going to have a really good chance to do that. But he talked very much, multiple times again, about elevating the quarterback room, you know, having that belief in himself, showing his kids that he's going to work hard, showing that this opportunity is something that he's going to have to work for now and not, you know, in Seattle where, you know, he had to kind of work at the beginning in Seattle. I think it was him and Matt Flynn when he was a rookie. But now, you know, he was obviously a 9-time Pro Bowler in Seattle, was kind of given the keys to the car in Denver. This is an opportunity now he has to work for in some capacity, obviously with Kenny out the door, maybe a little bit less. But I thought that was good out of Russell. If it's genuine and if he means it, then all right, here we go with Russell Wilson. But those are the little spark notes, if you will, of the 3 newest free agent introductions we got today. Patrick Queen, very soft-spoken, but I was impressed by the words he had to say. He's kind of one of those people. Elliott was funny. He stepped right up to the microphone, wished Mike Tomlin a happy birthday, and then Wilson spoke for like 21 minutes or so, and again, a lot was covered with him. So I'll have more on that, of course, later on.
Obviously, big day today. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're just over the 30-minute mark, 32-minute mark. 21 minutes away. DK Ramon, they are going to be all over this. That show is going to be popping today. And so thank you guys. We're at 622 watching right now. That's high for this show for sure. That's usually at least double what we have on usually on a really busy day. So obviously this is huge news, man. Huge news. Kenny Pickett is no longer a Steeler. He is now a Philadelphia Eagle. Steelers have moved on. You know, I just to kind of, you know, tie a bow on this, you know, I said, you know, near the end of the season that I didn't think, you know, Kenny was the guy. I just, you know, I've been kind of on that. You know, obviously there was a part of me that wanted to see what he would do under a different coordinator, but there were some other things that went past just having a bad coordinator that were just going to hold him back. And not saying he still can't overcome those, you know, obviously either in Philadelphia or wherever else he plays. But there were still just too many things that I saw that was like, you know what, I don't see him becoming the guy. And the Steelers have been so over, you know, in past years have been so stubborn to move on from guys just because either they were a first round pick or they cost this much money or whatever the reason. And seeing this happen, you know, if you know that Kenny's not the guy, you can say whatever you want to behind the podium or in front of the media or whatever. But if you know internally that Kenny's not the guy, then you need to move on. You need to figure something out. And honestly, good on the Steelers for doing this, because for sticking to their guns and not being like, well, we know Kenny's not the guy, but let's just kind of see what happens. Maybe he'll do it. That's how you waddle around in mediocrity. So, Not saying that it's a good thing that they traded Kenny, but if you don't believe Kenny's the guy, then good for you for moving on. That's the point I'm trying to make. So
cut the cord.
All right. Man.
Cut the cord.
Great show today. Yeah.
Batterista, real quick, says, what a wasted pick from day one. That's why you make picks. They all don't work out. Work out. And at the time, the Steelers had to do it. They had to give it a shot. And so far, in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era, one thing we know for sure, the Steelers are 0 for 1 in finding franchise quarterback. They're 0 for 1.
All right.
Making their next move right now. We'll find out who is going to be the one, who are going to be the ones to sit behind Russell Wilson. We'll find out. More is going to come, and we'll see what happens. DK and Ramon in about 20-ish minutes, right where you found this. Remember to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify as well. For playback, live 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. We'll talk to you Monday. Have a good weekend, everybody. He's Chris Halicke. I'm Corey Crisan. Cheers, everybody.